after years, I mean years of asking, Charles, we finally have a Beavis and Butthead poster. How are you?
Awesome. I'm great, Jason. The art department, I don't know. You can't raise them high enough. They'll be making more than Dr. Fauci used to make at this rate. But
I, I was thinking about this, Charles. The audience does not realize how long you've been asking me to create a Beavis and Butthead. I mean, we've had so many Buttheads in the government that this is almost like a universal catch-all theme. But I've always said it's just too difficult. It's a super stylized cartoon, and I didn't know how I was going to do it and all that. But, Charles, anything is possible, in my opinion. It's generally a matter of arriving at the right approach. And I had a breakthrough last night when I came up with the idea for this graphic, and I found the right approach. So even though things in the past, whether it's trying to stamp out government corruption, eliminate lawfare, whatever it might be, might seem like these things are insurmountable challenges, we have to keep trying. And through Kaizen and failing and getting back up again and trying something different each time, we're going to find the solution, no matter how vexing the problem.
Jason, I can't applaud the efforts of you supervising the team and the art department. This is just fantastic. The
Thank you.
inspiration you provide and the direction pays off. Way to go.
Thank you very much, Charles. And it's a team of one, but there's one more important thing that I wanted to tell you about. Well, actually, to tell the audience about, because you and I spoke about this. We're doing our shows while you're traveling internationally in the First Amendment Forum that people can watch on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and now on Odyssey.com. If people go to Odyssey.com and search for Crowdsource the Truth, they can become members and watch sponsor and exclusive content. This is not simply because I'm trying to feather my nest here. We read recently that, this guy in the UAE was detained. Maybe this isn't the same guy, but somebody said something bad about Egypt while in the United States. Then when that person traveled to the UAE, he was detained by authorities in UAE for violating speech laws in the UAE. So we want to be very sensitive while Charles is outside of the protection of the U.S. Constitution. I think you can get that as a dish rag now because they really aren't paying any attention to the Constitution. But at least here in the United States, we can fight to restore it. Charles, how are you doing in Duluth?
Yeah, that's out of the country. You mean the dish rag, right? What
Yes.
used to be the Constitution, but it's called the dish rag now. F the Constitution. The Supreme Court doesn't give a hoot about this Constitution. It's really frightening. And just on the subject, before we get to the First Amendment Forum, folks who've been following politics since really before 2000, say 2007, will remember actually since 2000, I guess it was four, when Obama gave his famed speech before the Democrat National Convention. At the time, he was just I think it was 2004. Was he a senator then, or was he running? He was certainly early on in his career. I think he was just a state senator in Illinois back then. And I have to give credit to him that speech, I watched it, on TV in the moment. And because of my experience, we have many, many similarities, Barack and I. You know what they are?
You both people?
Well, at least I am. Our last names contain 5 letters and begin with an O.
There you go.
And I probably spent more time in Kenya than he has, because I've been there for 6 or 7 months, and I don't think he's been there that long. But because I was at that time I'd retired actually now more than 20 years ago the first time, and so I was, I guess, in my completing my second year in retirement and looking for something to do with my mind other than just look after my kids. And the thought occurred to me, well, this Barack Obama guy, he's interesting. I mean, maybe he's got a future. And And so I watched this speech and I was truly amazed. I would say I was mesmerized at his performance because it really was so hopeful and, in retrospect, utter garbage. I mean, it was
Right.
complete bullshit what he said. There's no red America or blue America. There's only one America and all this kind of stuff. And then after he won, in which I also give him credit for the campaign. He and the people behind him, they ran a flawless campaign against a crook, John McCain, who was hopeless and was never going to win. And I guess may have been some independents that also screwed it up for McCain. But McCain was a disaster. That was not his first rodeo. He'd run before Straight Talk Express. He just fumbled everything. Remember, he suspended his campaign, and Barack, in the middle of the meltdown, and I think late October or October 2008. But once Obama won, once it was clear he was going to be the president of the United States, and before his inauguration, he said several days, before the election, he said, we are just days away for fundamentally transforming the United States of America. And in hindsight, that may have been one of the very few true things that the guy said.
Transform it into a shitholi.
Right. And really, for those of us, people know, I stay in Quality Inns, and I took the law boards when I was 18 in high school and did pretty well, probably did better than Obama did, and Clinton, both Clintons. But and I even got there was one law school that was interested in taking me as an 18-year-old, skipping college, but I was a small one. Anyway, I'm not a lawyer, but I have an appreciation not only for the Constitution, but for American history in its English context. People need to remember that we can debate many things, but no, the United States of America does not owe its origins to Islam or the various American Indian ethnic groups. The United States of America, the colonies that became the United States of America, were colonies of the English crown. And if anything, in the 1772 and forward period, the one nation other than England to which we owe a huge debt of gratitude is France, because it was France that provided this rising nation the ability to actually first adopt hopelessly flawed Articles of Confederation, which failed to allow the United States to govern itself. That was in the period 1782 to 1789. And then this Constitution, which operated for a number of years before the important Bill of Rights were adopted as amendments to the Constitution. And that at the time, that was amazing. There wasn't a modern republic of significance in that time frame. And moreover, most of the people who rose up to fight off the insane acts of the king and his coterie of England against the colonists, those people, under the laws that actually are on the books of the time, each person who signed the Declaration of Independence, and ultimately the people who rose up against the king, was in grave jeopardy of not only death if the revolution failed, but the heirs, the descendants of the people who rose up and signed that document, and others, would have been, had England prevailed, would have seen all their property rights of their families stripped by the king. So this is no minor. This wasn't George Floyd riots by a bunch of who knows how you want to characterize them. I would say miscreants and anarchists. These were people with substantial station, with a lot to lose, who said, you know what? Let's adopt a different form of government. And that government, the republic, as Ben Franklin pointed out, they gave us a republic, and he said, we'll see if it lasts. We are very close, thanks to Barack Obama and that nitwit Joe Biden, who truly is among the dumbest and most corrupt people, I think, ever to pretend to hold the office of President of the United States. Between those two miscreants, Biden and Obama, have done more than most to actually destroy the legal underpinnings by the precedents they've set for operating the United States in anything other than the perpetual form of chaos that we now find ourselves. So other than that, I think they're doing a good job.
Charles, I'm going to disagree with you slightly. I think Joe Biden might be the dumbest person to ever hold an ice cream cone.
Hey, dumber. Who was that comedian? Red Skelton.
Yeah.
Red Skelton was actually very good, very smart, but in character as the drunk clown. That's Joe Biden.
Exactly.
And Harris. I mean, you know, again, the whole way in which Harris was shoehorned in to the role as vice president, for this nitwit Biden to say, I'm picking a black woman. I can't do anything other than pick a black woman. What an absurd way to run this approach. I mean, you go back to what passed for the primaries before James Clyburn, the I think now retiring eventually representative from South Carolina, who's enormously influential in the Democratic Party. Before Clyburn decided that Biden's got to do it, Harris roasted Biden. Actually, it's the one most effective thing she did during her short and aborted presidential campaign was to fry Biden in the opening debate. And people, if somebody did that to me, and I was a presidential candidate, time came to decide who to adopt as my vice president.
Definitely
I would call, I'd call Harris and her people and get them all excited. I'd say, yeah, I'd like to consider you as vice president. Now, the thing is, I'm going to go on a trip to hell, and I'd like you to meet me in hell.
Yeah.
And you get there first.
I'll be
and just check it out for me and give me a report, and I'll give you the details on how you're going to join the campaign.
Charles, something just occurred to me that I might get in a lot of trouble for saying, but it's so funny it needs to be said. Joe Biden's selection criteria seems identical to his son. He's selecting him by race.
I know what you're saying, cool. And we'll just play the telepathy game, and I will not utter the words that leap into the front of my mind, because I think I would definitely get in trouble.
Exactly. The secret police of whatever country you're in will rush in and snatch you out of there. Now, Charles, we're in a moment right now where if there's a little more that you want to discuss while we're still here on YouTube, we can do that. Otherwise, we should make our transition pretty soon over to the First Amendment Forum on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and now odyssey.com. A lot of people are emailing me, Charles, that these are longtime viewer sponsors who are delighted that they've been sponsoring the show for as long as they have and creating this opportunity for you and I to be able to exercise what remains of the First Amendment. Right now is an incredibly important time to fight for the First Amendment. As unhappy as I am with some of the things that Elon Musk has been doing, he does say that tomorrow he is going to provide general amnesty to Twitter accounts. That would let me back on Twitter, if he's being honest, and that would be a move in the right direction for the First Amendment, to restore accounts that have not broken the law, while he's simultaneously removing accounts that are trafficking in illicit, photographs of child abuse and things that are against the law. So maybe the First Amendment is going to be making a comeback. Join us in just a few minutes in the First Amendment Forum. People will be able to see that, and Charles has a lot to tell us. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. See you then.